So hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for this EpicEvents webcast. My name is Candace and I am on the customer success team at vFairs. I'm super excited about today's webcast topic as we'll be discussing virtual job fair strategies to help you find job seekers, find top placements. We have a lot to cover, but before I introduce you to our amazing panel of speakers today, I wanted to kick off this webcast with a live poll. So let us know where you're logging in from, and also if you're planning on hosting a job fair this year. So let's go ahead and push that poll out and let us know. We'll give you a few seconds to go ahead and submit your poll. Are you planning on conducting a job fair this year? I know with us being in Q2 already, you probably have done a job fair by now, or you will be conducting one, I'm sure, in the next few months as we kind of head into spring and summer. All right, we see some poll answers coming in. I'll give you just a couple more seconds. All right, great. Let's see what kind of results we have. All right, so for our poll, it looks like 100% of you, so everyone so far that's joined us is planning on conducting a job fair this year. So perfect. Welcome. We're super excited to have you here joining this conversation with us today and our panelists. So let's go ahead and get started. So with our panelists, I would love to introduce them to all of you now. Our first panelist joining us today is Sharvari, who is a senior manager at JVS Toronto. Welcome, Sharvari. So glad to have you here. And our second panelist today is Danielle. She is the director of events at Professional Diversity Network. So glad to have you here as well, Danielle. And our third panelist today is Patricia. She is senior director of alumni at the Student Conservation Association. So welcome, ladies, to this webcast today. So happy to have you here. Give us a little wave. Hi, thank you all for taking the time out of your super busy schedules to speak to me today. I am very excited to hear what you all have to say around this topic of job fairs. All three of you are expertise in this area and would love for you to kind of give your insights today as we go through this fireside chat. And yeah, would love to hear your experience and any sharings and learnings that you have to share with our attendees today. All right. So Sharvari, I want to start with you. I want to talk a little bit about your specific job fair so everyone here in the audience can get familiar with JVS and also what you do there and your job fair. So tell us a little bit about your job role and JVS Toronto.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here, Candace. It's my pleasure to be here and share our experience with hosting multi-employer job fairs. So I'm a senior manager, pre-arrival and mentoring services at JVS Toronto. JVS Toronto is a nonprofit organization with close to 75 years of experience in employment services. The organization plays a vital role in the Greater Toronto area, ensuring that job seekers reach their potential. At work, employers build their workforce they need to be successful and students perform at their best. So each year we support close to 16,000 job seekers from various walks of life achieve their goals, their objectives. And, specifically my program is about supporting people who are arriving in Toronto, in Canada. It is a national program. So anyone who's been approved for immigration, skilled immigrants, we reach out to them even before their arrival in Canada and provide them with employment and mentorship support, prepare them for the unique challenges of the Canadian job market. And there are quite a few challenges. Mm-hmm. So that is it is funded by the Government of Canada. The program is funded since 2016. And we've, in our program alone, supported close to 10,000 individuals since 2016. So it is a program that we are very proud of, and job fairs are quite a valuable sort of service that we provide because the program is virtual, and a virtual job fair is kind of apt because all the program participants, the skilled immigrants that we support, it's a great opportunity for them to meet with employers from Canada. Sometimes it's their first interaction with Canadian employers. So we put a lot of thought into this and effort. So I'm happy to share more information as we go along.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I really love how, just as a company with JVS Toronto and your role there, how you're really supporting, job seekers and really helping them find jobs there in the, Toronto area, and then of course, Greater Canada too. So thank you so much for sharing. Can't wait to hear more about your specific job fairs at JVS Toronto. All right, Patricia, so tell us a little bit more about your job role and your company. Can't wait to hear.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Candace, for having me. My name is Patricia Malizia. I go by Trisha. I work for the Student Conservation Association. My pronouns are she, her, and I am calling in from the unceded ancestral lands of the Lenape people in Piscataway, New Jersey. So I work for the Student Conservation Association, and our mission is to develop the next generation of conservation leaders. So basically what that means is that we place high school and college students and young adults into paid positions to serve the planet. So jobs in environmental and conservation, whether that's working with flora or fauna, or working with trails. We place anywhere between 2,500 and 4,000 students into the field every summer. We've been in existence since 1957. We were founded by a woman, Liz Putnam, which is pretty much unheard of in the 50s. So we're really proud of that. We're America's oldest and largest conservation corps. All other conservation corps have been modeled off of us. So we're really proud of it. And the most exciting thing is we're placing our 100,000th member into the field this summer. So that's a huge milestone for us. I am the Senior Director of Alumni and Constituent Engagement. And so in this role, I develop all of our alumni programming opportunities and resources so that we can continue providing our alumni with support after they exit the field. And one of the ways that we do that is through this virtual career fair. I've been at SCA it'll be 5 years in July, and it's been something we've been trying to get off the ground since I started, but we were waiting for funding for it, and we finally received a grant last year that allowed us to be able to develop this program. And so the vFair is just one of the different opportunities that we provide for our 100,000 alumni. And so I can talk more specifically about our specific event later, but that's just like a broad overview of who we are and what I do and why the vFair was so important for us.
Well, great. We're definitely grateful to be a part. I feel like you're a part of us, all of our customers.
Yeah.
On this panel too, a part of what we do every single day. So thank you. And I love that the founder of SCA was also a woman.
Yes.
So I feel like we have a lot of girl power here on this panel today. So
definitely
we conquer the world.
Definitely 100%. I'm with you.
And then Danielle, so tell us a little bit about your job role and then PDN.
Yes, so I am the events director here with the Professional Diversity Network. We are a diversity recruiting solutions company where we meet the needs of our employers as well as our job seekers. We have an extensive network of 9 affinity groups that we work with job seekers, and then we help to place them in positions with companies that have their diversity initiatives. So I've been with the company since 2008, I want to say. Yeah, so for a while. And so just, my role is to do the in-person events as well as the online. We've been doing a lot of online fairs with vFairs, actually, with our Veterans Initiative prior to the COVID and everything kind of shutting down. So we were very familiar with the platform prior to COVID happening. So we were able to continue our initiatives of just placing our diversity job seekers with diversity initiative employers. We haven't been able to miss a beat with anything with vFair's platform. So really, really excited to be here, Candace. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Of course. Yeah, we're excited that you're on the panel here today. I love the diversity, and I've seen your job fairs firsthand as well, and they're magnificent. So I can't wait for you to share more information too. So I want to get more into just like overall, of what your job fairs are that you do, whether it be virtual, in person, or both. We'll talk a lot about that, because as we know, a lot of people are getting back to in-person events. A lot of people are kind of going the hybrid route, which is a combination of virtual and also in person. So we'll talk a little bit more about that soon. But I wanted to talk first about the main goal that your team is responsible for these virtual job fairs that you do. So for example, maybe your KPI is you want to have a certain number of job seekers there, employers, maybe a certain number of applications or submissions, meetings booked, chats conducted. So tell us a little bit more about your main goal and KPI for your team. Sharvi, we'll start with you, and then we'll jump to Trisha.
Thank you, Candace. The goal sometimes depends on the program that's hosting these events, but usually it's about creating employment opportunities for job seekers and, creating connections to employers, because some of the programs may not have employment as outcome, but, just creating those networking and connection opportunities may be the outcome. And of course, we want to help employers build the workforce that they need to be successful. And we sometimes have targets in terms of community events, networking events. So kind of use all of these opportunities to meet multiple KPIs or targets, right? Like it could be about mentorship opportunities as well. So we involve employers as much as possible. So employer engagement is key. And so using all of these opportunities, we meet targets where it's usually about the number of events and the number of job seekers that we have been able to engage, or a number of employers that we've been able to engage.
Great. What about you, Trisha?
Yeah, so being that it was our first one this past year, our goals, our KPIs were more around like attendees and employers, although the common thread, sort of what Sharvi was just saying, like we want to connect them to jobs. Like it's part of our promise to our alumni is that once they complete their service through us, that we will continue to support them in their professional development and job growth. So yes, the outcome we wanted and hoped for was that folks would find a job. However, because it was our first one, the most important thing for us was that people showed up, both on the employer side and the candidate side. It's like when you're throwing a party and you're like, oh my goodness, is anyone going to show up? Is anyone going to show up? Is it any? And you're like standing there and the party starts at 7 o'clock and you're like, is anyone going to show up? So that was like our driver for this. So I think that our goal was 150 candidates and like 20 employer booths. And we wound up having over 400 people register for the event.
Wow. And
probably about 250-ish that showed up. And our goal for employer booths was 20, and we wound up having 28. And so from that standpoint, it was super successful. And we've done some follow-up with our attendees about like, did you actually get a job at the event? And those outcomes have been lower than we would have hoped, but everyone was just learning. Like everyone pretty much probably 27 out of the 28 organizations that came had never done a virtual career fair before. Our candidates were kind of new and learning how to utilize the platform. So we learned a lot about what we can improve, but for our first year KPIs, our impact, I think, was very, very, very successful.
Yeah, that's great. I always love hearing that. I know with last year, we are still in that kind of all virtual world. And so I think it's really neat that you guys turned to virtual last year, and just kind of, you have to do it to see what kind of return and, you might get. And I'm so glad that you got 50, at least 50% conversion on this.
I do also want to mention that we will continue to be virtual. We will not do hybrid or in person because we're a multi-generational national organization. So we have folks that served in 1957 and folks that are serving right now. And so their age ranges are so vast, and they live all over, like predominantly all over the US, but even abroad. So we will stick with the virtual platform because that meets our needs best, whereas we're not like in one specific place or offering, anything in person. So Greg has a question, so I'm just going to answer it if that's okay.
Sure.
So we are only doing one event per year right now because that's what we have the funding for. But if we had more funding and it became successful where we could show the outcome that we matched an alum with a job, like I'm sure that we would do more. So it's just about learning and growing and tweaking so that we can continually improve the product that we're offering.
Great. Thank you, Greg, for your question. And thank you, Trisha, for answering it. Danielle, I wanted to ask you more about your main goal and KPI for your job fairs. I know you do twice a month with us. So you have to be constantly planning job fairs, huh?
Constantly. It's definitely my life. But I completely enjoy it. Like I mentioned, the Professional Diversity Network, our whole mantra for the company is diversity. And so that is our mission, to connect diverse audiences and diverse groups with companies that have diversity initiatives, even those that don't. And so that is the ultimate goal, KPI, that we kind of measure. Are we meeting that goal? Are we, providing employers that want to hire diverse audiences? And we do that, like you mentioned, twice a month, sometimes once a month, but mostly twice a month. And that's year round. So it's a really, really great opportunity because, excuse me, as the other panelists have mentioned, we are providing that connection, applying for a position, working for the whole entire industry has definitely changed in the career fair since just since COVID, right before COVID. And so just providing the necessary connections now from the community to the actual employer is what is most important. And that's what we're doing. We get about an average on 25 to 26 employers per event, and we're registering anywhere between 500 and 800 attendees. So we feel like we're reaching our goal as far as the companies and the attendees, and we're seeing those numbers typically for every event. So we feel like we're doing really good. We're reaching our goals.
Wow, that's a lot of job seekers and also, a lot of employers too, to keep all those hats kind of, all those moving parts kind of going and the plate spinning. That's really impressive. So that's amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. It's definitely not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but very rewarding. Very rewarding. It is.
Of course. And you're an event planner, so you
Yes.
have everything well organized, I'm sure. And Danielle, I wanted to ask you too. I know Trish was going a little into it with Greg's question that he had about how many do you conduct? So Danielle, for you, I know that you mentioned you conduct about 2 per month, but prior to COVID, tell us a little bit more about your job fairs. Were they in person? Did they take place?
They were. They were. We would, our career fairs travel from LA to New York. So we go all over. And so we do have national events where another initiative that we have is we join different diversity organizations. So we'll like, for example, the National Urban League. And so we'll host the career fair with their national conference or convention for the year. We'll do that with different partners that we have. And so those were in persons prior to COVID. And so we're kind of gauging how COVID is kind of going now. We get good numbers and then everything kind of shifts again. So we are looking to go back to that format, the in-person, maybe do a hybrid, maybe later toward the end of the year. But virtual definitely is a great benefit for us because, like I said, it keeps the ball moving for us. We're still be able to provide the connections between the employers and the candidates. But it also, we haven't gotten to that, but for data, we've increased our data retention. I mean, virtual just provides whole nother level of interaction and accessibility for information that we never got with in-person events. So yeah, we do we will get back to in person and do probably a hybrid, but in
Mhm.
person was initially what we were doing. And we again, we never saw, we now require resumes, or we can require resumes with the virtual format. And so again, that's another way for we're increasing our data retention. And that's another benefit for the employer as well as the candidate if they're not able to speak during the actual fair, which is one day. So I mean, I could go on about the benefits of the virtual side, but in person, yeah, we were mainly in person and trying to provide those connections.
Okay. All right. So I know for at least 2 of the 3 panelists so far, you were doing and conducting in-person job fairs prior to COVID, and most people were, and then kind of the swing happened in 2020. Pretty much everyone had to go virtual. So Sharvari, I wanted to hear from you specifically. For JVS Toronto, I know you guys do several events with us in a year, and you have a couple of different people who are POCs. For instance, you're a POC, and then you have a couple other of your colleagues who are as well. So for JVS Toronto, were you guys conducting job fairs in person prior to COVID, and when did you switch to virtual?
Yes, we were. Again, like I said, because we run so many different kinds of programs, mine is a completely virtual program. It's an online program. And it's a national scope, so it's always been virtual. But before COVID, most of the program, even the larger sort of job fairs, were all in person. We would create niche events as needed, and so that's why the transition was interesting, because when these smaller sort of in-person events were planned, the scale that they would have is about 100, 200 people, job seekers registering to these events. And the first virtual event that I did, it was maybe about 3 or 4 years now. Of course, the scope is much larger because it is a national program, but it turns out we had close to 1,200 job seekers register for this event. So the scale is something that people don't understand. It's so easy to scale these events when you do virtual events. And so when pandemic hit and all the other programs had to transition to virtual itself, so they realized that there's a lot more that can be accomplished virtually, and the efforts that they put in terms of attracting job seekers, whether it's like creating opportunities for our existing pool of clients or to attract new clients. If you plan this well, a virtual event can attract a lot more audience than in-person events.
Right.
So I think going forward, sorry, I just wanted to finish my point. I was just saying, going forward, it's going to be a mix of online as well as in-person events. I think that's the plan for the organization. Sorry, I interrupted someone.
Great. No, that's perfect. So it sounds like there will be a mix, for some of our panelists, for some of you kind of doing a hybrid approach, or just doing specifically virtual and then in person, and then, kind of going from there and seeing what works best. I know we've already had some marketing promotional kind of questions coming in, so I want to go right to marketing. That seems to be a very hot topic, especially for the job fair, conversations that we're having. So I want to talk a little bit about how you're marketing your job fair. So do you use any traditional marketing methods, or do you prefer more of a modern approach to marketing today? So Danielle, let's start with you. So specifically with PDN, what traditional marketing methods are you currently still using, if any?
Traditionally, we're still using email, of course. We have, like I mentioned, we have our 9 affinity groups that we work with. And so we built out those different diversity groups. And so we definitely have email campaigns with them. We do with events that we've had in the past, when we've had them fill out any type of on-site form, that we've been able to expand our databases with that information. So we include them as well. What works really well for us is Facebook and LinkedIn ads that we were using with them. We did try the SMS. I know that was a question, because I don't know if you want to cover that now. But
Sure.
didn't find as much success with that as we do just the regular campaigns. You know, we're in like this junk mail world now, so everybody's kind of getting inundated with a lot of information. So we've had to learn to be a little bit more specific and targeted on the candidates that we're trying to attract in the different cities that we're going to, if we're doing a mass radius or a smaller one, just to kind of make sure we're being a little bit more niched in who we're going after versus doing the throw out your net and grab whoever you can to come. And that's actually working very well for us, because even though we have events where we'll get up to 1,200 people that are pre-registered, but we're only getting the 300 that companies are really like, yes, this is who we really wanted to speak with. So we're being very, very much more targeted and learning the patterns that we're getting as far as our marketing strategies.
No, that's really great. Thank you for sharing that. For SMS, it works for some, it doesn't work for others. I think a lot of it depends on, it could be demographics, for instance, like students. We had a webcast a couple of weeks ago specifically related to, students and job fairs for college students specifically. And SMS seems to work for them really well. TikTok.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you put it on a Snap or a TikTok and they're going to respond. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
Dealing with that younger generation. Yeah. But if you're looking, more with a corporate, depending on who your audience is, of course, more of a corporate candidate, then they're not going to be on Snapchat. They're not going to be on TikTok wanting to look for job fair information. So you just, like I said, you just have to be a little bit more specific and more targeted, knowing your audience. And that's basically what we've learned and our successes with our marketing.
Yeah. And I know one of the other questions I wanted to talk about was just marketing strategies to reach those job seekers. And so it sounds like what you're telling me, Danielle, as far as marketing for your job fairs is concerned, that you're doing targeted ads, targeted emails, and that really is your best marketing strategy. Is that right?
Yes. For us, that's what works best for us. We in the past have done like I said, the large net and say, hey, everybody come. And initially the numbers look great, but then the turnaround is the numbers are not the same. So again, we're just being more targeted. That's what works best for us.
Yeah, that's great. And so let's see, Trisha, let's kind of roll over to you here for SCA. So are you kind of still sticking with those traditional marketing methods? Email marketing, I feel like will never, ever go away,
Right.
Do you prefer more modern approach? How do you guys go after marketing?
Yeah, so I think that we're definitely traditional versus non-traditional. It's all pretty traditional now. All the things that we're talking about are like social media and so on and so forth. Like, I think it's more mainstream now than it has been in the past. So, we definitely do lots of things that Danielle was saying, email and social media ads, and we do texting campaigns. We use a resource called ThankView, that you can actually push out video messages. So we use those to push out video messages. We use regular SMS texting. We did targeted and retargeting social media ads in both, Instagram and Facebook, and we use LinkedIn. We just got into the TikTok game, and we'll definitely be using TikTok, but like pointed out already, that's really for the younger folks. But that being said, we SCA have a booth at our virtual career fair, and we have to fill, as I mentioned, 2,500 to 4,000 positions every summer. So we will want to reach that younger demographic as well for our own positions. So yes, but we definitely have a very integrated marketing campaign. Our virtual career fair is part of our alumni engagement week. So we have an entire marketing campaign around all of the events for that week. So we utilize all of the might and resources that we have to push it out there. And then, as Danielle pointed out, like you might have 1,000 people register and only 300 show up. Like we had 400 something people register and 220 or so showed up. So it's like about that follow-up too. Like you registered for this event, you should come because, the National Park Service is going to be there and you want to be a park ranger. So you should come, so that continual reminder that they signed up for this event and they should come if they're still looking for work, I think is really vital to the marketing aspect of it.
Yeah, agreed. Completely agree with that. And then for SMS, are you currently doing SMS or have you thought about doing it?
Yeah. When I just want to make sure I understand, when you say SMS, you mean text campaigns?
Yes.
Yeah. So we do text campaigns. We use a texting platform. So we absolutely text for all of our events, and did use it for the virtual career fair, and we'll use that in the future. And one of the things I want to point out is that this is the challenge for events in general. Like I had an event this weekend that 44 people RSVP'd for and only 6 showed up, and I had to travel all the way to Houston for it. It was an in-person event. So my point in saying this is like just the text message beforehand that says like, are you still planning on attending? Click yes or no, like is helpful. And I will definitely be using that for future events as well.
Well, good. That's great. Thank you for sharing, Trisha. And then Sharvari, I want to hear more about JVS. And if you are sticking with those traditional marketing methods, and if you are adding any new, like modern types of approach to your marketing, and then we'll get into SMS.
Sure. And I agree with everything that Danielle and Trisha mentioned. You know, I just want to kind of sum that up by saying you'd have to you have to plan this out, give yourself time, because it takes time for all of these sort of channels to pay results, like for things to kind of, for the word to spread, and like whether you're using email, whether you're using social media, it takes time for job seekers to register, for the word to get out there. So just giving yourself that sort of at least 2 to 3 months before the event and start building up the hype is so needed. It's so essential. And we've seen that, like, it's not always possible. Like there are events when, we've started reaching out to job seekers maybe 3-4 weeks before the event. And, it's nerve-wracking because each week it builds up a little more, like some more registrations, it trickles in. But yeah, it can be nerve-wracking. But I also want to add, because we're a nonprofit, we have to be resourceful. We have limited funding in terms of publicity and things like that. So we do use the sort of the Facebook ads and things like that. But what also we tap into is our network of partnerships, our collaborations. You need to take time to kind of, as much as possible, give them time to help spread the word. So sharing all of that information as early as possible, and sort of sending those reminders, like Trisha said, like following up, and like, it's so essential.
Agreed. Yeah, the follow-ups are so important. If you're not hearing back, or if people are not registering, you can specifically target them and make sure, hopefully, add them to your registration list at some point.
And even with employer recruitment, it's not like that's easy as well, right? Even that takes a lot of marketing. So we do the traditional approaches. Yeah, absolutely. And not everybody, I don't know if it was Daniel or Trisha shared that not all employers may be comfortable with virtual space. So it takes a little bit of selling because they are investing so little of their time and getting so much more results. They don't understand how much of a difference it is between a traditional approach and sort of doing virtual events. They get handed over a whole pool of like resumes, which they can't potentially do in an in-person event. Like it might be that you have to redirect them to your applicant tracking system, but here you have an opportunity to kind of collect those resumes. And, so you have a lot more results through a virtual event. So just like we do a lot of cold calling and having to sell the idea of a virtual job fair to employers as well. So those are some of the things that we do.
Great. No, I appreciate you expanding on that. For all three of you, I'm wondering if you offer any incentives for attending for these job seekers. So in the form of, it could be prizes, raffles taking place, free swag. Do either three of you offer incentives to kind of attract people to register and then also to attend on day of? Sharvari, what about you?
We don't, but that is something that we are exploring, because we do have a certain sort of, we have to be mindful about, what can be offered, because we're a nonprofit organization. But in terms of creating incentives for job seekers and attracting them, especially if you're doing events for youth, I think they would be interested in, like, if we are giving out, some incentives there. So we are exploring that, and maybe one of the opportunities that we want to explore is asking employers to sponsor some gifts and things like that. So definitely would want to do that in the future events.
Great. Trisha, what about you?
So we don't offer incentives to like attend per se, but we do use the leaderboard gamification system as part of our virtual career fair. And we have corporate partners like Southwest Airlines is one of our corporate partners, as is, a few other organizations. And so last year we offered like 2 round-trip tickets through Southwest for the person that was the top on the leaderboard. And then we had some other prize packages that, revolved around national parks and public lands. So we offered like a package with the SCA swag with like annual national parks pass. And we offered, a couple of different packages for folks that were on the leaderboard. And from, our perspective, it was super successful. In the survey that we did, we got feedback like, oh, people were just going from one table to another to get high on the leaderboard, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, yeah, that might be true, but we don't care because it accomplished the goal we wanted, which was to get people to visit every table and to watch the welcome video and to do the survey. So that is the point of it. So if that's a thing for you, then you need to visit all the things and take the survey. But so that was really good for us. And we're definitely going to utilize that again this year with a few tweaks, because we don't want people to be bitter about it either. But I think that it was a big incentive and we did promote it in our marketing materials.
Well, good. And I know for some customers, once they start promoting these incentives, it really drives registration. And you don't know until the day of if it's going to drive attendance up as well. The majority of the time it does. In your case, a lot of people seem to be very excited, especially with, with the airline ticket, the round trip. I mean, how cool is that? And of course, throwing in some of your swag too, it gets people excited, because with being virtual the past, 2+ years now, you really have to constantly think of how to drive more engagement, how to drive more fun, if you want to put it that way, for attendees to come, to log in, because that's really what these virtual events are all about. It's the engagement piece, it's the networking part of it too. And especially the goal that you guys want is for these job seekers to find these job placements, and for the employers to be happy as well, and for the employers to come back and want to come and be represented at your next job fair. So it's like keeping two people happy. You want the job seekers to keep coming back, and then you want job placements to happen through the employers. So if everyone's happy, I mean, there's your goal right there. And Danielle, do you guys offer any cool incentives?
We actually tried doing that. It didn't work for us. Our in-person career fairs, companies bring their own swag. So, they're able to give it to the candidates when they leave. So they're getting like all these nice little trinkets where they're getting cell phone chargers, or that, those extended batteries with the company name on it, they have all that paraphernalia. So it really, when we were doing in-person events, it really wasn't an incentive to do something like that, because they were already going to be getting it if they attended the event anyway. We haven't really tried anything online, mainly because, most of the candidates that attend our career fairs, or I don't know how well, with our marketing, we kind of communicate how the process will go. They're more interested in actually speaking to the employer and getting in front of the recruiter than they really are about gamification and the leaderboard and incentives and things like that. So we don't really focus on that. We've kind of entertained the idea. Maybe we was like, well, maybe we can do it. Let's try it again. We have that conversation ever so often. But just making sure that we're providing the right companies and the right candidates has really been our focus. And once we do that, we really don't have an issue with attendance on either side.
Yeah.
So, So, I mean, it doesn't really work for us, but we've tried it. I'll just say we've tried it.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it does work for some, and like I mentioned, for the majority, they see some highlights, they see some, more registrants, more attendees.
Mhm.
But I think it's unique, too, with your case. Some people try it and it doesn't work. It could be, the goal of some of the job seekers, like to get in front of those recruiters, like you mentioned, that really is their main goal, specifically, for your event and the others too. But I think it's interesting. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And then our events are one day, they're for 4 hours. And so that's not really a lot of time for 300 people or 500 people to speak with one employer. So I think that's kind of the thinking with it. And so fingers crossed, we won't need to say you have to go to every person or speak to every person just to get that engagement. The companies are going to get the engagement regardless.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your event landing page. So I know what the majority of what the job seekers see before the job fair takes place is this landing page that you have, on your site. So the content that you provide, of course, you have the date, the time. If you have any sessions going on with your job fair, a lot of it really is just networking and more kind of traffic going through your exhibit hall specifically. But how do you prepare your job seekers for the best experience before they log in on day of, specifically talking about the content on your landing page? So this could be, maybe you add best practices. You have an FAQ section on your landing page. Maybe you have a walkthrough video displayed, resume builders kind of in place. Any specific things that kind of pop out to you specifically for your job fairs? Danielle, what about you?
Yeah. So we have on our landing page, we have the companies that are actually going to be participating, the actual logos. And so when someone registers, we send out their registration confirmation. Within that email, we're also adding a video that say how the day is actually going to flow. And then we give them best practices as far as, come back to the page often. We're always updating the company participation list, and then come prepared. So we're advising them to actually go to the companies, find out what positions that they're recruiting for, and then you're having a whole different kind of conversation the day of. It makes the day move, quicker. You're able to speak with more companies. And then we do have an FAQ on our landing page as well. We have one for employers as well as for candidates. So we try to answer, or like be in the candidate mind frame, and then answer the questions that we can for them there on the landing page. And then once they register, we send them a confirmation email. We're following up with them constantly, but we're also sending in that video. Kind of lets them know how the day will flow, how the process, how to talk to the employers, that type of information. So that works really, really well.
Good. It sounds like you're really setting them up for success too, which is the purpose, of these landing pages. Trisha, what about you?
Yeah, we totally do a lot of the same things, but in addition to some of the things that Danielle spoke about, because it was our first event last year, we did training sessions ahead of the event. So our event's in September. So we did one at the end of August and one in September, like the second week of September, for both the employers and the candidates. So we had the employers come to set up their booths. So like Hamda, came, and it was myself and other people on my team that met with the employers to actually help them set up their booths, because there was a lot of tech questions, again, right, going back to like folks are used to doing it in person. So how do we set up our booth? How do we load up our files? How do we put our logos on it? So we did 2 of those, and
that's
then
a whole conversation, Rachel. I don't mean to interrupt you that. Like, I'm more busy with online than I was in person.
Yeah, because people just show up, like you said,
and they think they're computer literate, but they're not.
Right.
Like,
so
hit the enter button. Where's the enter? Like, literally, you don't know where the enter button.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
And you have to be patient, right?
You do. I do the trainings as well, and you really have to be extremely patient, because you're like,
So we do that for the employers, and then we do it for the candidates too, because our folks, I don't know, what kind of like constituent groups that you all are working with, but like our our folks are relatively young, like new professionals. And so to your point, Danielle, like we want them to know how to dress and what they should be doing. And like, is your resume ready? I know you uploaded it when you registered, but did you tweak it since you sent it? Do you want to re-upload it? You know, like what should they be asking employers? Like, so we're just like coaching them so that they could have the best experience. We actually show them, both the employers and the students, in these trainings, like what the actual platform looks like, how they're going to get into it. So we use our backend credentials to show them exactly what the lobby looks like, exactly what the exhibit hall looks like, exactly how they're going to chat, exactly how they're going to, you know, interact. So we found that to be super helpful. We wish more people would come. Most of the employers came to the training, but not a lot of candidates came. But again, it was our first time. So we found that to be super helpful in preparation. And then, yeah, continually using the back end email campaigns to send out messages to the folks that are registered about day of and what to do and how to dress. And then finally, we also do that welcome video that I think Danielle mentioned. So when they come in, it was last year a welcome for our CEO, like, thanks so much for coming. Thanks to our sponsors. This is what to expect. This is what to do, but we're going to do a more detailed one this year too.
Great. Yeah, I think it's great just building off of your last job fair, knowing what works best and then kind of tweaking it from there. I think that's really great that you're doing that. Let's see, Sharvari, anything that you would add on top of what Trisha and Danielle have mentioned too about just your landing page, the content you have on there to really preparing job seekers and candidates for the best experience?
I think both Danielle and Trisha covered a lot of good points there, and we do similar things and share the same pain points. It is really hard to sometimes, you know, in terms of employers, like in the events that we do, I normally have about 20 employers, and they're kind of this, because the scope is national, they do come in from different parts of Canada. And we do a lot of training for employers as well. Like we send them a lot of communication. And so I think it's important to one is focus on communication strategy for both job seekers as well as employers. You need different touch points. Start with the landing page. Be clear about your messaging. Who are you targeting? Like in my event landing page, specifically for employers, we will state you have to bring in more than 2 reps as part of this event, because you know, it is going to get busy and you will need more hands on deck. But no matter how many times we say this, there's always going to be certain employers who will come with just one individual and feel overwhelmed. And the feedback we receive is also that, oh, I didn't know that this event is going to be this busy. That messaging has been there throughout. Like we send multiple communication, even when we start registering people, you know, we share this information. But so it's essential to kind of have a successful event. These kind of planning what will be in the starting from like the event landing page to the multiple communications that are going to be sent out to either job seekers or employers, you know, planning their walkthroughs and trainings and sharing best practices, especially with employers, learning from previous events and, you know, documenting that and sharing that as well from employers. If someone's had a success doing a certain thing, you know, bring them on board, have them share what worked for them with other employers. Job seekers as well, we prep them specifically for virtual job fairs because some of them, like Danielle mentioned, the answer button is right there and they don't know how to click, right? So even then, we'll always have, but expectation setting is important for both job seekers and employers. Again, multiple communications on, you will have a lot of people or you will have some people who are lost, you know, and we have event reps, redirect them to them, and we will help, you know, move things along. That's what we're there for. So just that having a plan for all of that is important.
Absolutely. And we had a great question come in from Samantha, and it looks like Trisha and Danielle have answered them in the chat, but I wanted to ask you, Sharvari, any tips for recruiters as far as their approach? What feedback have you gotten from candidates on what makes a positive interaction with recruiters? Any tips there?
We do, like, as part of the prep that we do for job seekers, we tell them to research the company before they approach the staff or recruiters, and like, one is know if they have jobs in your space, and if you do, go with the pitch. Like, everyone's time is precious. Like, just go well prepared, and they will engage with you much better, right? So but I would say, in a job market, especially in Canada now, it's a job seekers market. So I think employers and recruiters need to take that extra step of engaging with job seekers as well. Like, they need to understand that, you need this individual, maybe not for this position, but, in the future. So giving them a positive experience in terms of an interaction is essential. And it's part of like that branding as well, right? Like, they want to walk away. You want job seekers to walk away from having a positive experience with your brand. So just being aware of all of that is, I think, very important.
Yeah. And Trisha also made a good point too. And Danielle kind of second her as well, about making sure that the employers, they stay in their booth, they're there the whole entire time of the event. So there's no booths that are vacant, and maybe a job seeker gets into one of their chats and there's no one in there, that sort of thing. So making sure that the employers, the recruiters actually stay in their booth and do monitor their chat, because as you know, traffic can be high. There can be at one moment, 25 people, the next minute there's 75. You may be scrambling as a recruiter if you're not in there the whole time, really following up on those questions, even having some one-on-one chats, and then maybe having a second recruiter too is some really great advice.
Yeah, and I did want to add to, I like the vFairs platform because they do give you that option where you can actually put that message on top to say, hey, I needed to step away for a minute. We'll be back in 5 minutes, that type of thing. So really utilizing the platform's benefits to communicate that. And I also want to say too, to piggyback Sharvia's point with the recruiter experience, is just to make sure that you're not just sending the candidates to your company website, just say, oh, okay, just go to the website and you'll look at this, you'll find this position. That is kind of a shoe off or push off to a candidate. And I've heard that a lot from candidates, and it's not a respecting their time because they're taking the time to come to the event to speak to you. So if there's any, additional information you can say, or don't just say, go to our company website, even if they're not a good fit for the position that you're recruiting for, just say, oh, okay, well, maybe, you can speak with a colleague of mine, they're recruiting for this position. Just give other recommendations. Don't just kind of push them up to the side and say, oh yeah, you're not what I'm looking for. Next person. And I know that's a lot of pressure because, as you mentioned, the traffic gets big and it gets busy, and you might be understaffed and you not have the support that you need, but still just being respectful of the candidate's time. I'm a huge advocate for candidates.
And to that very, very same point, like, come with jobs. I put that in the chat. Like, we had folks last year come that were didn't actually have jobs available. They were kind of like trying to fill their pipeline for that job that might come up, and that was terrible for us, because like that we promised jobs from people that had college educations through people that had high school educations and everyone in between, right? So don't tell me that you're coming to my virtual career fair and you have jobs, and then show up on the day of the virtual career fair and not have jobs, because I will be very upset, and my candidates will be very upset, and you will not be asked back. So that's hugely important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great point to add there. And we've had some really great questions come in. I know we only have 5 minutes, so I wanted to go back up to a question that we had at the very beginning. And Trisha, you answered this. It was asking about the lead time up until like how long do you start promoting your job fair before it actually starts? Trisha, you mentioned 8 months before, because I know you have your annual job fair. But for you specifically, Danielle, I know you have 2 of these job fairs a month. So, like, what does that look like? Because there's a lot of, there's like cross promotion, I'm sure, going on.
There's a lot of cross promotion, a lot of cross planning.
Mm-hmm.
I have a really great team that works with me with my company, and then of course, vFairs Hamza is like my lifeline. And so what we've done is, of course, we work backwards from the calendar. So from the event date, we work backwards, and we just have to we stop having events in November. So we have the month of December, and then that's like our time to kind of regroup, which is kind of crazy because we do still have an event in January. But we just kind of work backwards from that event date, and we just have a calendar, and we just kind of cross it off and say, this is when this needs to start. And it's a whole domino effect. And we have checklists that we cross off, and our weekly meetings with vFairs, and it's a lot of planning. It's just a lot of planning, and we don't get the luxury of planning 8 months out because our calendar actually doesn't get solidified until probably August of the following year, or prior to the following year. So it's just a constant all year planning process. And I don't know if that helps anybody at all, but it's kind of how we have to work it in our world at PDN. It's just a constant planning process. You think you're finished with one event, and then you just have to start all over for another event, and then it just keeps it's like a tedium thing. But once we get the system down and we have the right people, we work perfectly. So it's working great over here. Yeah,
it's all about a good system.
Yes, and we're changing lives. We're providing employment, so we're helping. We're tangibly changing people's lives, and that's the way I look at it. That's the motivation, and it's like I said, it's a lot of work, but it's so rewarding for me. It really is.
Yeah, that's great. High impact, I would say. With so many events, it's got to keep you motivated too. So that's great. Sharvi, I just want to ask you really quick, and then we'll go to the prize. But Sharvi, what about you? How long does it take to pre-plan your event?
Because my event is also kind of national. Again, I think it would differ for each program within the organization. They may, if the scale is smaller, they may do 2 months prior, but I try and at least start 3 months ahead. You need to, like I said, there's a lot of planning involved, communication strategies, and recruiting employers and things like that. So yeah, I would say 3 months is a good time to start.
Yeah. Yep. That 12-week period really helps to kind of get things rolling with planning, and then also, promoting, getting the site up, getting your landing page up, like we talked about too. Great. Well, I know we only have a minute to spare here, but there's been so many good conversations happening today. Before the webcast ends, though, I wanted to give away 2 $50 Amazon gift cards as a thank you for joining us today. We've had some really great conversations and chats.
We're
coming
included in that, right? We're
I mean, I'll be sending
Amazon is our life, my lifeline, like
mine too. I'm waiting on a package right now, actually. So. But we'll be sending all of our panelists some really cool vFairs swag. But for the 2 attendees who are here today with us, we're going to pick at random. So let's see here. The first winner of the gift card giveaway is, drumroll please, Samantha Voss. Samantha, congratulations on that Amazon gift card. I know Danielle's super jealous. I am too. Buy something really cool with it. And then our second winner for the Amazon gift card is Jennifer Roberts. Congratulations, Jennifer. Hope you enjoy your $50 Amazon gift card. We'll be in touch with you shortly after the webcast ends today via email with more details on how you can redeem your gift card. So congratulations again. But before we wrap up the webcast today, I wanted to share an update with you guys. We are excited to host our customer inspired event called Discover Next. We had Discover Next. We launched it last year for the first time, and we are doing it again this year. This is all about our customers, all giving back to you and just letting you in on what the event landscape looks like right now, and currently what it's going to be looking like post-COVID. So lots of educational sessions that will be going on. This will be June 15th. So please mark your calendars. June 15th is our next Discover Next. We'll have a lot of prizes, a lot more Amazon gift cards we'll be awarding to attendees. We'll have some live entertainment you will not want to miss. And of course, a lot of the sessions that I talked about just a minute ago. So thank you so much, everyone. That wraps up today's webcast. We really appreciate you joining us today as we chatted through strategies for virtual job fairs, and good luck to all of you out there doing those job fairs for the remainder of the year. If you want to learn more about how you can conduct job fairs, just like we talked about today with our panelists, please email us at sales@vfairs.com so we can connect with you this week or next week. And lastly, as a reminder, you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include the on-demand link, so you can go back and watch the webcast again and also share it with your colleagues and your friends. Well, thank you so much to our special guests again. We really appreciate your time with us, and we hope every one of you out there has a great rest of your day and week. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.